Howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio. Back for another episode of World Bigfoot Radio, this time coming to you from near my home stomping grounds in the terrifying, scary, dark woods of Wisconsin. And right now we have with us in those dark woods in Wisconsin, Dark Woods. Welcome to the show, bud.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Well, it's about damn time. One of my projects that I got here that I wanted to get done this winter is to get a hold of a whole bunch more people on the Upper East Coast and Upper Midwest that are doing Bigfoot research there and start letting everybody else out there know that, by the way, we got a ton of researchers up here you guys aren't paying attention to, and they're really good. Anyway, with that, let's get to Dark Woods. How'd you get involved in this whole thing?
Well, it happened when I moved up here. But prior to that, I was vacationing up there because I have a girlfriend. She's Primal Cry. Sometimes she's on groups on Facebook and stuff that I have. And I had an incident in 2018 where my truck got smashed by a tree. The truck that I'm in right now. And back then, Bigfoot was just a name in my head, didn't think nothing of it, And the strangest thing was the top of a tree broke off on a night that there was no storm, no wind, nothing. And somehow it went through about 40 feet of other trees and around pine trees and landed flat on my truck. It smashed the roof and everything in. It turned a body mount inside out, so there was some extreme force when it nailed.
What was the diameter on this thing on the snapped off end of it?
It was around 12 inches.
Well, a foot thick. Yeah, was the tree rotting at all?
No.
Okay, so that doesn't happen. That's like literally impossible. Trees don't break like that. You got a rotting tree, the wind pushes on it, it snaps over where the rotting part was. Okay, that happens. If you got a tree that's got a loose root system or it's getting ready to die anyway, the wind pushes on it. Generally, they snap off right at the ground. Occasionally, you get a windstorm so big that it'll break branches and tops of trees off. But if that happens, you see other trees nearby also heavily damaged. When you see a tree that looks nice and green and fresh and it's snapped off halfway up, that's not normal. Take a closer look. And that's just little notes for the rest of you out there listening. This shit don't happen. And especially a 12-inch thick tree getting snapped off halfway up and then migrating itself 40 feet to fall onto a truck. Yeah, right.
Yep, that was crazy. And that was
that's when you started thinking there was some agency at work other than nature that made the upper half of this tree land on your truck.
Well, that observation didn't happen till later. I actually got stranded up here for a while, had to get a rental car to get back home. And this is what's really interesting because, like I said, Bigfoot was not in my mind. Later on, I found out the distance where the break was from the tree, and we couldn't understand it. No one heard it. The car's next to the house. That would have been like a 40-mile-an-hour impact. You would have heard it. But nobody. The dog never barked. She barks at everything out there, but it was kind of strange how that happened. And when I got the rental car, I was coming back to meet my girlfriend because we were meeting up in a town before we got to her house, and there was a kind of a small creek that ran underneath the road and it emptied out into a lake off to my right. And when I was going around the curve, I looked in the lake, and right in the lake was standing something big was standing in the lake in the middle of the day. And I thought my brain, you know how it processes stuff, where uh, I was thinking that's got to be the back end of a moose or something strange.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, that thing's huge. And then my mind knows the image like crystal clear. I got a nice photographic memory, and it kept popping up and it kept questioning. I'm like, well, maybe it's a moose, but ultimately, that ended up being actually a Sasquatch that was out there. And this is strange because that was the day after the truck got smashed. And then I was driving back and I seen that. And then all the way home, when I finally got to get home, I had this burning desire. It was overwhelming to research and find out more about Bigfoot. I had no idea why, but I think they implanted that in my head. And since then, I did a lot of research, and then I found out about Dogman and all that other stuff. And another weird thing with the tree incident is when the tree smashed my truck. Before, I didn't know it happened that night until I woke up the next morning. But that night, I had a dream, and it pertained to Dogman. And I've never even heard about Dogman. So the whole thing is really bizarre.
Wow. Yep, that is strange. Well, you know what? I really hate that thing where like people tell you that there's this cryptid and you're like, that's preposterous. And then you actually film it and you're like, damn it. Quit telling me about these weird cryptids that I accidentally filmed later and then I know they're real too. And quit it.
It works.
It's very disturbing.
It is.
Yeah, I was on the fence about the dog man too. I mean, people tell me all kinds of weird stories, and I don't know which ones are true and which ones aren't. And you get a lot of people telling you the same kind of story, and it starts leaning heavily toward this might be true. But when you actually get one on video, and the first one I got was middle of last summer, and there was several other Sasquatch standing there on the edge of this clearing watching me, and there was a dog man standing between two of them, peeking around a tree. So you could see his face nice and clear. He had brown hair on him. Well, the most recent one that I got on video, that one's black. So, oh, great, there's more than one up there. Now, Robin was just looking at the video and goes, oh, there's a really big one in the background, too. And I'm like, oh, friggin' wonderful.
You got the whole crowd.
Yeah, it's not bad enough that there's actually one up there. There's apparently several of them. And now I get to worry about Dogman, too, while I'm doing Bigfoot research in the same area. Wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, they don't attack you, then they're good.
Well, yeah, as long as they don't attack. I get the feeling that the ones up there like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, because the bag of Cinnamon Toast Crunch always disappears first. And when Robin talked to the Bigfoot, they're all like, no, we don't like that stuff. That we're not taking it.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
who's swiping that big pillow-sized, jumbo-sized bag of Cinnamon Toast Crunch first every time? Before anything else gets touched or even looked at, that thing disappears right away. And the one time there was a little slit torn in the top of it, and I went back to check and see if the stuff was still there. Yeah, bag of apples still there, and here's the bag of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and I went to pick it up, and it was like 2/3 of it's gone.
Oh,
What?
wow.
Yeah, it couldn't have been a mouse that crawled in the top. He couldn't have got back out again. And he couldn't have ate that much in one day anyway. Some tore a little tear in there and was taking eating them apparently. So then I went, well, I'm going to move this further upriver here, and so that they can find it and the remains of what's in this bag, and make sure they can see it from the other side of the river. And left it there. And then I came back the next day to drop off the rest of the stuff I had because we were going to leave. And the bag of apples is still there. And the remains of the bag of the Cinnamon Toast Crunch is completely gone, bag and all. Like they panicked that I was going to walk off with it or something because I changed it from one place to another. Oh, God, he might take the Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Quick, grab it.
Grab it while it's good.
Yeah, we don't care about these stupid apples. Get that Cinnamon Toast Crunch. What the hell, man? That's so like un-Bigfoot like, because usually it's a community thing. It's like, oh, there's a bunch of goodies here. The boss has to come down and check and make sure it's all okay before he can touch any of it. So it just sits there, all of it, Not like one random thing disappears and the rest of it's sitting there. You're like, wait, what? Why didn't you take any of the rest of it? Oh, because they're not running under the same rules. So they just showed up early and went, oh, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Grab that pillow with Cinnamon Toast Crunch. We like that. I don't know. That's my theory. I don't know.
You ever tried any other cereals?
No, no. The only reason I even brought that is because one of the Sasquatch told Robin that they wanted something with cinnamon. And I wasn't going to just bring them a whole pile of cinnamon sticks. They'd try and eat it all at once and get sick. So I brought them like 2 or 3 cinnamon sticks and then this big, gigantic, jumbo size, generic Cinnamon Toast Crunch, size of a pillow.
There you go.
Yeah. And the other thing is, in the 2 different places where I brought that with, they leave all the trash there. Empty peanut butter jars, bags, everything just stays right there. So I can pick it up and haul it away again. Except for the pillows of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. They're gone. Bag and all. No debris, no evidence they're ever there. What the hell is that all about?
Yeah, what are they going to do with that?
Yeah, exactly. Who is exactly hauling this whole bag away and not bringing the trash back? The other ones are just like eat everything on the spot, leave the trash there, let me pick it up.
They're probably sniffing the bag somewhere.
Well, you'd think with their sense of smell, they'd be able to smell, like, well, there's something inside of it, or whatever. But somebody is taking them. I don't know what they're doing with them. That one, like I said, they had popped there was like a little tear. It looked like somebody had a sharp fingernail and went in the top like that. And that's how much space there was that 2/3 of the bag was now missing from. And that was still sitting upright. So it could have been a small animal crawling in and out. He couldn't have got back out of the bag again.
Huh, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was quite surprising. I wasn't expecting that one. Like, what the hell is going on here?
I would have never guessed Cinnamon Toast Crunch. No way.
Well, again, that's something I would have never tried either, but the one of them wanted something cinnamon. So I figured that's something you could eat that's got cinnamon on it. He wouldn't get sick even if he ate the whole bag of it. And apparently the Bigfoot didn't really like it, but somebody else liked it a lot. So, yeah, I have no idea who it was. For all I know, it was little people, any other weird cryptid that you could think of that would be doing that, because it really didn't look like something a normal animal would do. They just tear the package open, eat everything, leave the debris.
Oh.
They're not going to make like one little hidden slit in the top so they can sneak the contents out and leave the bag sitting there, making it look like nothing was missing. Who the hell does that?
That kind of sound like little people to me.
Yeah, they're near there too. There's another area that they're near that I don't go to because I know they're there and I don't want to disturb them. But
yeah.
It's possible. They're like, ooh, cinnamon cereal, yum, and they came and swiped all of it. But again, if you think about it, Cinnamon Toast Crunch kind of looks like dog food, and it's got yummy cinnamon flavor. So, maybe the dogmen are mowing down on it. I don't know. I don't know who's getting it, but I'm kind of leaning away from the Bigfooter taking it. Because, they got protocol. They don't just like randomly grab stuff. Whoever's in charge has to go check it out, make sure it's safe and all that, and then kind of grab everything at once.
Yeah, and that is a processed food, so it makes me wonder too,
Yeah, that's one of the things that's fun about being involved in this a long time. You start seeing those patterns over and over again, and in different places, the same pattern. So you're like, well, this is a pattern to their behavior. This is some kind of rule or something, the way they do things. And then, in the same place, you see the pattern completely broken. And you're going, what the hell is going on here? Are the Bigfoot the ones that are taking this, or is somebody else taking it? Because this doesn't follow their protocol.
Right.
Yeah, and in both the places where that's happened, we've actually gotten the Dogman on video too. So that's why we're leaning towards maybe it's a Dogman that likes Cinnamon Toast Crunch. So any of you guys that have Dogman hanging around your property and you want to be like friends with them, try to leave them some Cinnamon Toast Crunch and see if they like it or not.
I'll have to give that a try. I can imagine several other things out here probably like it too.
Oh yeah, lots of little animals would love it. That's why it was just like hard for me to think that it was probably a cryptid that was doing it or anything, because like lots of animals would eat that. But what could make that little slit in the top of this pillow-sized bag and be taking 2/3 of it out and then have the bag still sitting upright like it hadn't been disturbed and it was still full? That takes thinking. You know, even a raccoon wouldn't be that circumspect. They just tear the bag open and eat it.
True enough, yeah. So that is interesting. Huh.
Strange, strange stuff connected to cryptids. Well, anyway, who gives a bleep? This is about your evidence. So after you had saw the one and you decided to go do lots of research for some reason, and your truck was hopefully fixed a little bit, what happened next?
Well, then I moved up here and tell you a quick story. We have a bonfire that we set up out in the woods. It's about 150 yards from the house. And we're out there one night. It was winter time, a lot of snow. I'd say there's like 2 feet of snow for sure. And
Wow.
we were sitting out there, and I heard this because we have a river that runs about 15 minutes behind the house through the woods. And where I live, the house is surrounded 360 in wood. So, and it's deep woods. And
dark woods.
yeah, dark woods. Yeah,
Had to throw that in there too. How far away is your nearest neighbor?
We have one that's not too far away. We have like a access road that goes to a canoe launch. So there's a couple of houses there, but outside of that, it's a ways to get to more
So
houses.
you're kind of out in the woods. Well, I mean, how far away are the neighbors? Right next door, 100 yards, half mile.
Probably about 200 yards.
That's quite a ways. So you don't really have any neighbors near you, basically.
Right. But either way, on the other side of the river, we heard what sounded like a coyote sound, but it was real weird. It was like somebody was impersonating a coyote.
Oh.
So I told my girlfriend that's weird because up here no one's outside at night, especially in the wintertime too. But there's too many wolves and predators. I don't even trust the yotes out here. They're pretty big. But yeah, you never see people outside at night up here. And I was thinking, who would be on the other side of the river yelling like a coyote? So I have this call blast that I do. It's a super loud oof sound. I can make it where it echoes, and you can hear me from a long way away. I learned that working on a farm. You know, when you're yelling at some guy on a tractor across the field, like one of the best ways he can hear you. So I ended up doing that oof call, and as soon as I did, it was 3 seconds later. And like I said, you could tell that their coyote call, the fake one, was about on the other side of the river. 3 seconds later, it's on our side of the river.
Whoa.
And we heard that call, and we're like, what? And then another 3 seconds later, there's things up in the trees. We got big, fat, tall white pines, you know, all over the place.
Yeah, they get really big.
Yeah. They're halfway up the tree, banging the crap out of trees. And I think there was one or two, but it sounded like you were surrounded out there. But it was like wood knocks, and it was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There was three of us, me, Primal Cry, and her son. We were all out there. And it was getting such a frenzy that my girlfriend got up and she said, we're going to go in the house because I don't feel safe out here right now. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to stay out here and try to figure this out, you know. So they walked in, and now the wood knocking stopped, but you can hear branches and stuff breaking, you know, up above in the trees and
Yeah.
moving around. So I'm out there. I got the bonfire going. I have a headlamp. My headlamps, I know there's new batteries in it. Headlamp starts going, it goes dim.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, oh. And I look over at the fire, and I'm like, oh, at least I got a campfire going. That thing was blazing. In like 10 seconds, it went down to a tiny flame. And I was like, this is weird. And then right after that, because there was hardly any light and it was super quiet, you could hear a pin drop outside. I was standing in the darkness and I'm leaning forward and I got my head bent and I'm listening to hear anything like a footstep or whatever. And all of a sudden, the strangest sound happened. And I heard that guy, Steve, How to Hunt, explain hearing that sound once. He was the only other person I know that heard that sound. But it sounds like when a quail takes off, you know how they got that drum beating wing sound when they take off? Or,
Grouse, yeah.
yeah, grouse. It was just like that. But to me, it sounded like wet fingers were beating on a chest. And it was
Hmm.
fast, precise, rhythmic. It just, and it was loud. Like I'm talking to you, it would almost override our conversation. Super loud. It was real close.
Well, so is a grouse if they take off and they're near you, or if they're doing drumming to attract a mate. They're just standing in one place drumming. It starts on bump, bump,
Uh,
bump, 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 bump.
so this started out fast.
Mm,
This at 11:30 at night, and there was when a grouse takes off, you'll hear it. It scares me a lot when I'm out in the woods. They take off at the last second, you know.
yeah.
But you'll hear
You know,
it.
I almost stepped on one in September when I was up the valley with Keith. I got him on video afterwards sitting in the tree branch glaring at me.
Yeah, last week I got spooked by two of them when I was cruising through the woods. But yeah, it'll make your heart jump for sure. But there was no fading of that sound because you know how they fly off. You'll hear that drumming sound, beating
Yeah.
sound. This was constant, solid, and it was going for a while. And I was listening, and I'm like, I just got this image of it like doing this with its hands on its chest, just with the fingers.
Hmm.
And like I said, the beating was so precise. It was almost like a machine. It was weird. And then after that, it stopped. And then I thought I just had this feeling that I should leave, and like all my hair stood up. And then I went back to the house, and my girlfriend was out on the front porch. She's like, "You should see your face right now." And I said, "You should have heard what I just heard," you know. And I explained to her what happened. But that was my first um, non-visible encounter. I'm pretty sure they were juvenile foots, you know. I
Mm.
believe maybe they were calling in coyotes or something. I don't know if they eat them or whatever, but
Yeah,
they were.
Bigfoot outlaws have talked about that before. They do call in coyotes just to eat them. And we had an example of one when I was camped up at the ghost town of Coloma with researcher X the second or third night we were there. We were listening to what sounded kind of like a coyote making calls, and further away, actual group of coyotes started calling back. And it kept calling. It was trying to get, it was like challenging the coyotes to a fight. Screw you guys, come over here, I'll kick your butt. That's what coyotes do, right? So the coyotes were not falling for it apparently, and after a while it kind of trailed off, and then about 10 minutes later you heard the coyotes start calling again, and all of a sudden went yeep, and then they were all quiet. But yeah, they made enough noise for him to figure out where they were, and since they wouldn't come over to him, he went over there. So yes, they will do the coyote call not only just to signal each other and whatnot because they can, but also to lure in coyotes that they may decide what they want to eat.
Wow. Yeah, I guess I interrupted their hut by doing that, or they're curious, like who,
And
what.
by the way, the chest drumming thing, I've heard that too. I heard that several times when I was a kid, and I was very confused by it because I was in an area where we had tons of grouse. You would hear them drumming all the friggin' time. And I started hearing this drumming several times. It didn't start out slow and speed up. It just kept going at a steady speed. And I
Yeah.
asked my dad, what's that? And he said, I have no idea. Thanks, Dad.
At least it was honest.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was a city kid. He grew up in Detroit, so he didn't know that much about the woods. You know, I grew up out in the woods asking him questions. Dads, what's this? I don't know. Thanks, Dad. You're so informational. So, yep, I have actually heard that too, and I was very, very confused when I did too, because it sounded just like a grouse drumming, except it didn't start out slow and pick up speed. It just kept going at a steady speed for a while, and you're like, what the hell does that? That doesn't sound like a bird's wings flapping either. It's not getting closer or further away. It's the same volume.
Yeah. And I was thinking it was a challenge or something, you know, and that's kind of why I was like, oh, this ain't a good place to be right now. So I left. But I
So
guarantee,
at that point, did you think it was Bigfoot at that point? Had you figured it out by then?
yeah, I was because of the tree knocks. I mean, I did enough armchair research to figure out certain things, but I didn't know I shouldn't make noises like that. That was probably a dumb thing to do. But
Any stupid mistake that you survive making is good. You can learn from it, not do that again.
well, I think it was a weird way of introduction because after that I had a couple of incidences with them where I couldn't see them, but they were actually playing jokes on me. So yeah,
Wait, you got the same group over there that I hang around with? Because it kind of sounds like
it could be.
I know they like to play jokes on us when we're up there camping. Usually, every time we're up there, they'll play a prank on somebody in the group.
Yeah,
Oftentimes, the new guy.
yeah. Oftentimes a new guy, and that's who I was. And like the next morning, I got up and I looked all over the woods. I went almost like a half a mile back in the direction of woods and around where we had the fire, not a single footprint. But it would be easy for them to go from trees all the way across.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. But I was so surprised I didn't find it. I thought for sure I was going to find footprints.
Well, I've heard this a bunch of times from folks, and like Blaine Tyler says, most researchers don't look up, but I do. And the last time he said that, he sent me a picture of about a 50-foot pine tree with a Sasquatch sitting on a branch about 25 feet up looking at him. Well, I had another researcher that was really confused about that because they had an area they were going to year round. And even in the winter when there was snow, at night while they were up there, they'd hear all kinds of activity, but then they wouldn't find any tracks. And I finally asked him, how big are the trees there? And he said, oh, it's old hardwoods, really big. Well, have you looked at the branches to see if there's any bark missing off them? So the next time he went up there, he looked and he's like, "Yep, that's exactly what's going on." You could see all the worn off branches from right next to the camp going back out into the woods where they were coming and going through the trees. They weren't leaving any tracks. That's how we could keep hearing them, but we could never find any sign of them on the ground. They weren't on the ground.
That is amazing.
Yeah, something for everybody that's interested in Bigfoot to keep in mind. If the trees are big enough to carry their weight, they're easily up in the trees. Little ones are up in any size tree. They don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess sometimes they put the little ones up there for refuge in case there's trouble on the ground.
Well, same thing as a bear. If you watch a mama bear when there's danger, she'll chase the little bears up the little cubs, they'll go run up to the top of a tree and wait for mom to deal with a problem before they come back down again. And, as good at climbers as little cub bears are, they're nothing compared to how good a Sasquatch is at climbing. They can run up and down a tree.
They could be fast up these trees.
Yeah. They got ridiculous upper body strength. I mean, they could chin themselves with one hand. So, of course, they can climb. Yeah, the only limit on that is if the tree's big enough to carry the weight of the Sasquatch trying to climb it. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, after a while you learn to look up in the trees, and I've noticed a lot of the bigger trees got some branches that are broke off. Granted, you get windstorms or something, ice storms, things like that, but you can see a pattern from trees to trees, and then other areas there's no damage like that. So you can almost see a route that they would take through the.
Exactly. Yep, that was one of the things we noticed when Richard Williams found the Williams X up here, where they had moved two lodgepole pines into place and made this X structure out of it. And we looked at that several times, and then we realized the first time we filmed it, we had like filmed the upper part of it. All the trees around it all had the bark ripped off up by the top. Like something had climbed up there and knocked most of the bark off and climbed back down again. Like observers up there while they were positioning the X or something. A little bit this way, a little bit that. Hold on.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really peculiar too. And that's again the only area around there where there's any damage on any of the upper parts of the trees are some of the ones that were right around where that X structure was. We're
Wow.
missing the bark way up at the top. Not anywhere down by the ground, but way up at the top of them.
Yeah, and when they're up in that tree, they could get around behind the backside of that tree. Like some of those white pines are pretty big. I could
Yeah.
see You
Yeah,
know,
exactly. They could just hang on the back of the tree, and you can't see they're up there. They got the tree in the way.
you can't, right?
Yep, and they're very good at doing that too. Never underestimate their ability to climb. They can practically run, up a tree. So,
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing.
well, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Even if you think they're North American apes, obviously they can climb like crazy. If you don't think they're North American apes, look at the way they're built and how strong they are. Obviously, they can climb like crazy. It just boggles my mind when you hear these people that supposedly know anything about Bigfoot going, Bigfoot doesn't climb things.
Uh,
Maybe on the planet you're living on, but we're on Earth.
yeah, maybe they're thinking about Care Bears or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe they don't climb trees on the planet you're living on, but the planet we're on is called Earth.
Yeah, welcome to Earth.
Welcome to Earth where Sasquatch climb things. So then, after this whole thing, then what was the next thing that happened?
Well, there was one time when I was at the same bonfire right after that incident, and I went to. I always get the fire started up, and I'll text my girlfriend that fire's ready, and they can come out and bring all the stuff out.
So this is like a regular event. You start up the bonfire pretty regularly.
We're bonfire freaks on the weekend.
Okay. So basically, what I'm trying to imply here is that if they're observing you, they're used to this behavior. They see you do this bonfire thing a lot.
That's true. And you know what? Since you brought that up, I'm gonna go back a bit with the situation with that my blazer that got smashed.
Hmm.
We had thought about it a lot, and my girlfriend lived here with her son for a while, and she noticed there's strange activities with the Sasquatch around. And it's our belief that because you know how they have clans and then you have a male and female and then the kids and all that. Well, they didn't have a father figure. So we think that some of these foots kind of kept an eye out for them because she would camp with her son by themselves at night out in the yard.
Hmm.
They would hear a lot of weird things and stuff. And but whatever the case was, me coming up here was, the new kid on the block, and now here's a male figure, and I don't know at first if they're like, who's this joker up here, and whatever. And I still wasn't living there. Half of us suspect they smacked the car so I would stay, and the other half maybe they didn't like me or whatever. But then all the stuff that happened with the truck, and the dream and all that. But later on, we just realized that there was a transition of me coming up there, and that's why all that stuff happened. Because I think they're family orientated, and they kind of took them in as a family, and then some outsider was coming in and wasn't sure what was going on. But after that car blast we did at the bonfire when we got chased out of there, I think since then they like me now. But hence the joking around that they do. I was at this bonfire and it was wet as hell, and it took forever. And I was down on my hands and knees blowing on embers, and I finally got the thing lit. So I was like, great. And I went to sit down in a lawn chair, and I was rolling up a cigarette, and I was just about to lick my paper when right behind me, like I swear, inches behind me, sounded like massive hands that were clapping. It was just pow, pow, pow. It happened like 4 times in a row. I heard the first one and it scared the crap out of me. Then when the second one clapped, it registered in my head that all this was going on, and I jumped forward with my tobacco. Everything spilled out. I had a flashlight and I turned around and I hit it on, and there's nothing there. At least I couldn't see anything whatsoever. There wasn't a bunch of bushes or things anything could hide in that one spot behind my chair. So I had that happen. I had them throw little rocks and things at me when I'm working on my truck. But yeah, they definitely do have a sense of humor.
I think your analysis of the situation prior to you being there is probably right on point because I've heard this a bunch of times where there's single women with children, there's no males around. The Bigfoot will keep a closer eye on them because that's not culturally done by them. Women are, not supposed to be wandering around by themselves. There's supposed to be a male there to keep an eye on them, make sure they're safe, all that kind of stuff. And so they tend to have the same opinion, and they think it's weird that we let, single women wander around by themselves with nobody to keep an eye on, protect them, kind of thing. And especially if they got kids or anything, then they get protective too, they'll make sure she's okay. And we got one person that contacted me and Robin that was having problems with every time her husband work out of town and he'd be gone for 3-4 days at a time. And whenever he left, they would show up and start making calls in the woods. And occasionally, like once a day or night or something, they'd come over and slap the wall on the house. And she was all terrified by it. Well, I put her in touch with Robin. Robin contacted the Sasquatch in question. And they said, well, she's in bad health. We're worried about her. And there's nobody around here to help her. So we're just letting her know that we're there. Tap on the wall of the house. Hey, we're out here keeping an eye on you. Don't worry about it. Of course, this is having the opposite effect. She doesn't know what it is and she's terrified by it.
Yeah.
So now that she knows what it is and she's not so scared about it anymore, they've really and Robin talked to him about, hey, you're scaring the crap out of her. Quit doing that. So apparently they've backed it down a lot. But I'm under the impression that whenever hubby isn't around, they're still there keeping an eye on her.
That's a very interesting aspect about the Sasquatch, that they have those type of family orient values and then they even apply them to us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we try to apply our modern values to stuff that, happened 150, 200 years ago. That doesn't work out very well, which is, stupidity. We're trying to put our cultural ideas on somebody else's culture. And it's the same thing with them. I mean, they got a certain way of doing things and stuff, and some of the stuff that we do to them is just completely baffling. Seems like the stupidest, most bass-backwards thing imaginable, and they don't get it. And one of the things with little kids wandering away and disappearing, if they see some little kid wandering in the woods, they think it's like you threw him away.
Yeah.
Parents are dead or somebody abandoned this kid. He's going to get eaten by a bear. Okay, what do I do now? And some of them go, well, I'm going to take him back with me and figure out what to do later so he doesn't get eaten by a bear. And then some of these little kids end up showing up again. And they tell stories about the magic bear that took care of them for a few days.
I heard a few of them. You're right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kid's going to make up something goofy like that,
Yeah. I mean, it'd be the same thing for us. If we saw some weird looking little kid walking around in the woods by himself, we'd be like, who abandoned the kid? Why? What stupid idiot parents let this poor kid wandering around in the woods by himself? The woods are dangerous. Duh.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's like the female Sasquatches have maternal feelings, especially. And from what Robin told me, the emotional values that we have, theirs are like 100 times more. So that kind of gives me good reason on why they act the way they do sometimes. Like, you wouldn't think they would get so mad if you did certain things, but they would flip out, off the handle.
Yeah.
Or a lot of compassion and love, so.
Yeah. Yeah, you've not only got that sort of thing going on, but then you've also got the fact that they're completely unique individuals, just like we are. So even though there's more or less a rule book that you can figure out some of the stuff that's like normal behavior for them, that isn't going to apply all the time because you might run into some, one that's like bad news, already been thrown out of his clan, doesn't follow rules, and doesn't give a crap. Well, take the rule book, throw it over your shoulder. You don't know what the hell that one's going to do.
Yeah, those are the ones you don't want to run into.
Exactly. You don't want to run into any rogues. If you run into a single Bigfoot in the woods, you better hope there's other Bigfoot around there. Because if it is just a single Bigfoot in the woods, you could be in for a lot of trouble.
Yeah, big trouble.
That's why there's single Bigfoot in the woods, because they got thrown out of their group because they couldn't follow rules. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That's not good.
So.
Generally, I used to think maybe that they would send the younger males out of the group to go find a mate or something when they got to a certain age. But now that I'm finding more out about how they organize and everything, That doesn't seem to be the case. You know, they'll actually like farm them out to some other group. You guys take this one. You got a bunch of females over there here, and take this one.
Ah,
So
huh.
I think there's a lot less of the solo Sasquatch wandering around than people think there are. You know, and of course you could see some of them that are just curious vacationing. I've never been over to this mountain range. I'm going to wander around and see everything. That stuff happens too. I mean, it's so hard to get hard and fast rules that apply to everything when it concerns these guys. You know, even their cultural taboos. You know, mostly humans are not supposed to be killing each other. That's a cultural taboo. They have the same cultural taboo. Bigfoot aren't supposed to be killing each other. But they also think we're people too, just like they are. So they've got the same cultural taboo about killing us that they do about killing each other. We don't necessarily have that because we're not even sure they actually exist. Most people don't know what they are. It's some kind of weird animal shooting.
Yeah, and then the fear. You see something like that, and it doesn't register. You got a firearm. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
shoot
And
first.
yet,
Later.
the other thing that gets me is how many times I hear this where somebody's seeing some really scary Bigfoot, it's nearby, they're just totally freaked out. They can't believe how huge this thing is. And then they're like, well, wait, weren't you out hunting? Yeah. Didn't you have a gun? Yeah. Why didn't you shoot it? And you hear one of two things. Either I was so scared it didn't even register that I had a gun in my hands.
Yeah.
And if I had tried to shoot it, I don't think the gun I had would have done anything but piss it off. And then the second response you hear is, it looks so much like a human, I didn't want to shoot it.
Yeah. Thank
Oh,
God.
duh, they're people. They're not human people, but they're people.
That is true. We call them forest people. Yeah.
Forest people. Yep. And again, referring back to the oldest language on earth, Sanskrit, where they got the story of the Ramayana and who helps Lord Rama go wipe out the demon god Lanka and get his girlfriend back again from the evil giants. Well, the Vanara. What does Vanara mean? Forest people. What's the description of the forest people? Well, they kind of look like us, except they're a lot bigger. They're covered with hair. They don't wear clothes. Some of them are the size of elephants. Sound familiar?
The past don't lie. Written history.
Yeah, that's from like 6,000 plus years ago, too, in India.
I thought Gilgamesh also had some hairy tall giant that he would wrestle as well.
That Gilgamesh had Enkidu, that was his buddy, and actually Enkidu was scaring all the locals, even though he wasn't dangerous, just because he was so huge. And they thought he was another monster at the time. The countryside was full of monsters, and Gilgamesh was the big giant monster killer. He was like part Nephilim or something, so he was huge anyway. So he determined that he was going to go beat up this yet another monster that was in his territory and scaring his citizens. And when he got there, the monster whooped his ass. And so he made friends with the monster, and it became his traveling companion. And him and Enkidu, the wild man, went around and killed lots of other monsters until Enkidu finally got killed in the battle. But yeah, that was the only monster Gilgamesh couldn't beat. Enkidu whipped his butt.
That's crazy.
He was a giant. He got his ass whipped by a Sasquatch. There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
So yeah, and that's 5,000 years ago. Epic of Gilgamesh. So not to get too distracted with history lessons or anything here, but 5,000 and 6,000 years ago, there's your two Bigfoot stories from there.
Yeah.
Bigfoot ain't nothing new. According to Bigfoot, they were around here before we were. We're the new guys on the block. They're the old farts.
Isn't it amazing too that even back in the history where it's written, I think the common person knew about things like that, and they seen all kinds of other stuff. But now today, half the people out there don't probably even believe in Sasquatch, or
Yeah,
they think some kind of primate.
supposed age of reason. What a joke. I was just watching a documentary earlier today where they had a whole book of zoology, herbology, and natural science that they had put out in Mongolia like 200 years ago. And it had every local plant and animal in it and what they could be used for medicinally. The only single animal in that whole thing or plant that isn't easily identified is a Yeti, which supposedly is imaginary. But out of the hundreds of animals and plants they've got in this book, that's the only supposedly imaginary one that's supposedly imaginary. Right.
Wow.
No, doesn't add up, does not compute. You are being told a lie. Do not believe mainstream media. Big liars.
Yeah, it's a control factor for sure.
Well, let's get to some of these cool pictures that you sent in, unless you've got some other really epic encounters that you want to relate first.
Some of the pictures definitely has epic encounter included.
So what's your favorite picture? I'm
Uh,
relying on you to relate this information, not drag it out of you.
my favorite picture, and it's to me one of the most epic encounters, was what I call the group photo, and it has the female dogman in it. She was crouching down in the picture, and crouched down, she was about 4.5 feet tall. There's a male dogman off to her right, and then there was also a younger baby dogman that was poking its head around a tree about 4 or 5 feet up. And back behind the male dogman was a very large, I would suspect a male Bigfoot that had like a conical head. You could even see the wrinkles in its forehead. But that encounter was the most interesting that I've had. And the pictures, I have a lot of pictures of dogmen and Bigfoot, but that was the only picture where I actually seen them. But some of the other photos, taking random pictures and then finding them is some of the other photos that I have.
So that one with the dogman and the Bigfoot in the background, you actually saw him there when you took the picture.
Yeah, and what is amazing about that was they logged out a very small area going alongside and behind the house to the river. And you know how the pine forests are up here. There's tons of pine needles and sand and whatever, and it's hard to leave tracks.
Yeah.
So where they got rid of a lot of the trees, and there's some mud and sand areas and some areas that fill up with water where you can get some good tracks. So I go back to look for tracks most of the time for deer, because I hunt deer and all that in the fall, and to see what other activity is out there. And it was just every single, like a typical day. I had nothing on my mind except I'm going to go out and look. And as soon as I entered a certain area, the beginning where the logging was good back there, all of a sudden I had this thought overwhelm me in my head. And it was an unusual feeling. I never experienced it before. But it was like the thought was like a knowing, and it relayed a message like, we're over here, is what I felt. And it felt kind of like it hit you in the brain and went down like this. It was just weird. And I stopped for a second and I thought that was just my imagination. And in my head, I thought, you got to be kidding. And as soon as I got done thinking that, it happened again really strong. And to my left, it said, we're over here. And now it's serious. I'm like, okay, I never had this happen before. And I look over and I can see in the trees there's a dark object. And I'm thinking, okay, there's something over there. And whatever that was right. And my mind was still, okay, well, maybe my sixth sense is telling me that there is a black bear over there. Because that's one of the things, especially in the springtime, because it was springtime when I went back there. I didn't want to get caught between a mom and her cubs.
Yeah. Or ones that just came out of hibernation or nice and hungry.
Yeah, and I don't want to be on the food list for sure. So, but either way, I was curious. So I decided I was going to walk into the area kind of towards them, but not look at them like I don't know they're there. And I would walk around, I would pick stuff up, look, at stuff that I picked up, look up in the trees, just doing nonchalant stuff. And I would edge my way closer and closer. And I never looked over in the area straight at them with my eyes. I just kept the dark objects in my peripheral.
Mm-hmm.
As I was walking by, I was looking for a landmark because I'm like, whatever this is, I want to see about getting tracks the next day to see if there's tracks. So when I was walking, I noticed in my peripheral there was a set of trees. There was two up close and then two further spread apart behind. And it kept going like that back into the woods. And right there was whatever that black object was. And I knew, okay, this is a good place to take a photo. That's what I wanted to do. And I stopped. I pulled my camera out. I didn't hold it up to my face because I didn't want to freak out whatever it was.
Right.
So I pulled it up to my chest and I turned it sideways, and I was lucky enough to get a squared off photo. So after I took the picture, I started walking around again, and I did the same thing as I approached them as how I left, nonchalantly, and like everything was normal. So that was that, and I really didn't know at the moment what was really happening. But when I got in,
So you just knew there was something there, and you didn't actually get a good look at it until
right,
you actually looked at the picture.
so I actually look at the picture, and because of what some people call mind speak or mind projection, that thing that came over my mind,
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget that. And if it ever happens again, I'll know exactly what that is. I've heard about it before, but I never thought that would happen to me. But went back and looked at the photos, and when I zoomed in, all of a sudden I seen a canine head, and I was like, no way. And then I kept looking some more, and I could see the features. I could see the big knee bowed out as the dogman was squat down. And I had this overwhelming feeling that she was a female dogman for some reason. I just, maybe because of the connection, I think she was the one that was connecting to me. But later on, I was posting the picture up, and that's how I met Robin. She came across it, and we started talking. And then, sure enough, like a little while later, she sends me my picture back, and she shows me where there's a baby dog man next to it, up in a tree. So you did say though that the other one was a female, so I was right about that.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, me and Primal Cry got into a frenzy of looking deeper in the photos. And then when I looked at that one, I couldn't believe that there was another one there and another one, Bigfoot and another dog. And the strangest thing was, Duke, when I kept them in my peripheral, I kept them glued in my peripheral because I knew that area really well, and I knew
Right.
that I didn't have to worry about where I'm walking. I kept them in my peripheral, even though I didn't look at them straight on. Nothing moved one iota, not 1 inch. They were like statues, and I thought that was weird. And in the photo with the female dog man, there's a tiny branch that comes just perfectly across both eyes. With the male dog man, his head's behind a tree where he can't see his eyes. And with the Bigfoot, he's turned like this, and you could see he's ducking his head. So all three of the adults didn't want me to look into their eyes, but
Uh-huh.
the baby dog man's looking straight in the, straight at me. He's not hiding his eyes whatsoever.
Yes, and this is I've caught a bunch of the little squatchlets doing the same thing with me, and I spot them in the picture because of the eyes, and then you start looking close and you go, "There's several more of them in here," but they had the sense to turn their faces away, so you don't, because like our vision, that's why pareidolia came from. Our brain tries to make faces out of things that aren't even faces. So if we see something that looks like a face, bam, we're on it right away. Pattern recognition. And some people are smart enough to just look for eyes. So that's the other thing they want to hide. Because if you see those two eyes, that's what most hunters are looking for. They're not looking for a certain kind of color, fur, or anything like that. They're looking for two eyes.
Mm. That's very interesting. So they know about that.
Yep, of course, they're hunters. And they operate the same way we do.
I've heard, because I've done a lot of, I do field research while I'm out in the field, but I do value armchair research. There's a lot of little gold nuggets you'll find here and there. Some people have information, they have no idea how important it is, but at least they relay it across to other people. But I heard something to the effect that there's like a quantum entanglement when you look at a Sasquatch or a DM straight in the eyes. It's like I've heard that you've been marked or something like that before, or you will constantly always have mind speak with them. It's like you get entangled with them when that happens.
Mm.
So strange was they appeared there. I got that mind knowing thing with them. I got close enough to get a picture, but all of them had their eyes covered. So I don't think they were ready to integrate with me in such a way like that at the moment. Maybe they were just testing me out. Because I view this as like a first contact. I've never had anything like that happen. And that's apparently a contact when they reach out to me through my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if the ones, no, I've only had like one incident that I could think of that might have been mind speak. And that was apparently a female one that was on the far side of the river from where our camp was. And I was just sitting there cooking food and stuff, and all of a sudden I get this weird impression in my mind that there's this lady's on the other side of the river, and she's saying, "Hey, I like you." I mean, I'm sitting there cooking, and this random thought comes in, like, "What the hell is this?" There's nobody on the other side of the river. How'd I get this stupid idea? And I'm sitting here cooking. Where'd this come from?
That's why, because you're cooking. Maybe she was hungry.
Yeah, maybe she wanted some of whatever it was I was cooking. Well, as it turned out, she was coming into camp swiping our food too. We caught her doing it a couple times later on.
Hey,
Oh
wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. She is. I had my cooler right next to my tent underneath the rain fly, and I wake up in the middle of the night and something's got the lid up, so they're reaching underneath the rain fly, pushing the lid up, and then trying to reach in and pull food out of it. Well, it's literally 1 foot from where I'm sleeping, so of
Wow.
course that wakes me up. And I don't know what is doing it. There's something leaning against the side of the tent. So I rolled over and punched it as hard as I could. And whatever it was didn't make a sound. It just dropped the lid, backed away from the tent, never heard it walk away or anything, which was quite a trick for an object that had to be at least the size of a human, because there's only about 2 feet on the side of the tent, and then it's all thicket. And even
Wow.
walking through there during the day when it's light would have been almost impossible to do it without making a sound. So definitely a Bigfoot. And then I caught her in camp about 2 weeks later. She was messing around with my buddy's tent, which is about 40 feet away on the other side of that thicket. And I heard it, and I already had the tent unzipped. So I just crawled out and sat in my camp tent. And then he started moving around. And again, I'm thinking it's him, but it wasn't. She goes running out of camp and goes past this big tree and goes down the trail to the river. And I see her go past this tree. She's like 30 feet away. And at first I think it's because he's got his lantern out going, and that he walked out of the tent and it threw his shadow on the tree and it looked huge. So
Oh,
then
wow.
I hear his tent unzip as he gets out of it. And I'm like, oh my God. And I went, was there just something over by your tent? And he goes, I was hearing something over here. That's what I got up for. And he comes walking past the tree. And he's like normal human size. And this other thing looked like Patty, like 8 feet tall. Quick duck around the tree and get away. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I'm all freaked out again. That was an actual Bigfoot, not just a shadow. Holy crap. Probably the same one I punched a couple of weeks ago.
It'd be a riot to be camping with you guys.
Oh, no, no. The morning after I punched her, apparently her boyfriend or the alpha male or whoever was in the group that was in charge heard tell that I punched her. Hey, I didn't know I was asleep. Something was messing with my tent. I rolled her and punched it. Because as soon as I got out of my tent, the only area around there that didn't have any leaf litter or anything was the area right in front of my tent flap. I cleared it away. And then there's a chair right there. So as soon as you climb out of the tent, you can like turn around, sit down in the chair. So I turn around, sit down in the chair, put my shoes on. There's a 19-inch track right there. The big toe is about 2 inches from the front of the tent.
Wow.
19-inch track.
Wow.
Yeah. And I went, okay, well, I won't accidentally punch anybody again. Sorry about that. I didn't know who it was. You woke me up. Yeah, that freaked me out a little bit. And we had found tracks of the same individual about 150 yards down the river, and I got a picture of that one. But this one, I kind of stepped in it and wrecked it before I even noticed that it was there, so I didn't bother to take a picture of it.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
Yeah, no, I wish I would have gotten a picture of it because that's, the fun part of the story. Not that I rolled over and punched something and I didn't know what it was in the middle of the night. But, well, here's the next morning. There's a 19-inch track right in front of my tent. The
Yeah.
only place where you could conceivably leave a track that we would see it just happened to be right there, like left there on purpose. Is what I'm
No,
saying. Yeah.
that's crazy.
Like, don't roll over and punch my daughter or whatever the hell it was. I don't know which one it was. It was there. But that's when we decided that we would take all of our scraps and everything and just leave them down by the edge of the river so they didn't have to come into camp and swipe food. We just leave them down there for them, and then they quit coming into camp.
When you punched her, did it feel like you hit a solid wall of muscle or something? Do you remember that?
No. Judging by the shape of the object, which looked like somebody was pushing a basketball against the upper part of the tent, that was a female. It was her breast, and I punched her in the boob because it felt like a huge bag of lard with shag carpeting wrapped over it.
Oh my gosh, dude! You're lucky you're still talking right now.
That's what I'm saying. It didn't do any damage to her at all because we're pitiful compared to them. So, it'd be like one of us going, beep. Oh, that hurt a lot. She didn't even make a noise. She just backed away and walked away from the tent. But I don't think it was the same individual that left a 19-inch track there that I could find first thing in the morning. It was probably either, her mate or her dad or something like that. That was just, hey, don't be punching my daughter in the boob. Hey, I didn't know your daughter was your daughter or what. I just woke up, something was messing with my cooler. I punched it. That's all I know.
That's crazy. I don't think I'll ever hear a story as crazy as that.
Oh, I've heard several others. Caveman walked into one in the dark one time. Literally walked into one. Thought he hit a tree. Bonk. Looks up 3 feet above him. There's a face looking down at him like, you idiot. He's like, oh, very sorry, he says in Navajo. Quickly walks around him and keeps going.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and he's a pretty cool guy.
Well, that's hilarious in two ways because the Sasquatch could have easily stepped out of the way and he would have never known it was there. It just chose to stand there and see him came in and walk into him, which he did.
What are the odds? That's crazy.
Oh, he's had plenty of close calls with him, but that's the closest to the close calls. And I know I have several other people that I know that have actually touched him before. So it's like, and again, I don't know what I punched. I'm guessing it was a Sasquatch because of what happened, all the circumstances around it, but I don't know. If it was a human or somebody else, they would have went, ugh! Because I get punched pretty hard. I used to bench press, 405 for 3 reps. So when I punch you, you're going to feel it.
Yeah, you're going to feel that one.
So anyway, so the Dogman thing. Now, after you got the picture of the Dogman, and you looked at it, did that freak you out? Because you're thinking maybe it's a Bigfoot or something, and then you're looking at the picture, going, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah, it did freak me out. But there's another thing I say, and I will not say that this would happen with every encounter. But when I got that sense that knowing that something's over there, and I went to investigate it, there was no fear. There was no doom. There was no dread, nothing, no aggression, nothing like that. So everything was really neutral.
They weren't trying to give you the go away vibe. It was just like, hey, we're here. Don't get too close. We're just watching you.
Or almost, I think it was almost as if they were calling me over there. It's kind of what it was like. Because, I did get a lot closer than when I first got the impression. And, nothing never happened. There was not even a sound. I know the wind was coming from the south, so it was hitting me face on, and they were off to my left, so I couldn't get any smell. I didn't smell anything strange. But I just think that because they had their eyes covered, that they weren't fully committed into, like, let's say, a first contact.
Yeah.
Like I heard people have, So I really believe that they were just testing me out to see if I'd freak out when I saw them or whatever. And when I did look at the photo, I I freaked out, let's say in a good way, because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that was there and all this stuff. And then pretty soon you're like, well, what does all this mean? Why did all this happen?
Yeah.
And it gets me thinking. I even pull myself out and look at it in a bigger picture, like, okay, why are they here in this world? Where do they come from? What are they about?
Hmm.
A lot more questions and research that I did after that.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is a lot of people say that Dogman and Bigfoot don't hang out. Well, I have a photo that shows that there's a Sasquatch with
Yeah. I've got more than one pieces of video now that prove that Sasquatch and Dogman hang around. So yeah. Yes, they do. And the whole angry killing machine Dogman story that certain podcasters like to put out to make money off of should be discarded as the bullshit that it is. If Dogman were that friggin' dangerous, there'd be hundreds of people disappearing every week. Clearly, they're not.
them. I'll tell you, when I was home after my truck got smacked and I got it towed back down there later on and fixed it, I did a ton of research and I came across Dogman and I was like, this is baloney. But like
Yeah,
you said, to a lot of different accounts and they all were matching up. There's some differences, but there is a similar core line. So I started thinking, well, man, a lot of people can't be lying about it. Even if all of them were lying, but one was true, then it's true.
yeah,
Well, but all the stuff I heard was all the terror one. And I lived in a urban place down in Illinois, and I had neighbors and stuff. And I wouldn't even camp out in the backyard for like 2 months after I heard all the Dogman stories.
yeah. Well, I
Just
mean, honestly, the Dogman are in general more, it seems that they are in general more aggressive than Sasquatch tend to be. Sasquatch are more shy and reclusive, Dogman more outgoing, alpha personality. But that doesn't mean that they're automatically a deadly killing machine that wants to annihilate you. Mostly they just want you to go away and leave them alone. And that's the same thing with the Sasquatch. And the ones that, if you've got a group of Sasquatch you're researching, they seem to have good dispositions and they're willing to put up with you being there, and they've got a dogman with them. Well, if the dogman ain't following their rules, you think he's going to be around there?
that's right.
Obviously, he's willing to put up with their rules and stuff because they're letting him hang around with them. So if they made a decision that no, leave that human alone, he's not a problem.
Yeah.
They'll, they might get tasked with following you around. Maybe the other Sasquatch are all busy, and it's like, hey, Fido, it's your turn. You go follow him around for the day.
Yeah. So that also tells that they do have a communication between the two of them as well.
Oh, absolutely. As apparently one of my friends has actually speaks to their local Sasquatch, and the ones there are teaching them some of the words in their language. And they also have two dogmen that are hanging around with them, and the dogmen have their own language. It's not the same as the Sasquatch language.
Right.
So again, that points to the fact that these are distinct beings that have their own little societies and ways of doing things and stuff. And the dogman, whether they can according to what I understand, they've only been taught two words in their language, and they've tried to teach me, and I can't even pronounce them. It's like, so it's not going to be very easy for humans to learn their language. Sasquatch words seem to be pretty pronounceable. They're pretty easy to pronounce, but this dogman language is like, no. And if you go back to like Marco Polo and stuff talking about the cynocephaly, the dog-headed people, and they basically say they didn't even have really a language. They just barks, howls, yelps, and stuff to each other that they had organized to be some kind of a language or something, and we couldn't understand it or speak it, but they could do sign language. So that's how they were interacting with humans and selling things back and forth.
There you go. Yeah, that part I didn't know about sign language.
Yeah, and that's the great equalizer. I mean, keep in mind the native tribes in North America didn't necessarily. They might know the tribe right next to them, but they might never have any interaction with the tribe on the other side of them. So they all had
Right.
a common, a silent tongue. They could all sign to each other and knew the basic words. So if you ran into somebody from this other tribe, you could at least go, "Hey, I'm
Yeah.
not from the Sioux, don't kill me, or whatever you are. And then the
Yeah.
other thing, of course, that was universal, and they used to come up in all the old cowboy western movies and stuff, where they'd have the native go, how? Well, they didn't say how, but they did show their hand to each other. And the reason was twofold. First of all, open hands, you haven't got a weapon in them. Secondly, they can count your fingers, make sure you don't have 6.
Yeah. Yeah. They didn't like them giants.
Anybody had 6 fingers, you're either a giant or you're related to them. You're bad.
Yeah. They didn't like that. There's a
No.
lot about that.
Yeah, of course, I just covered that on my channel and how it seems like the giants were either trying to control and or eat all the humans on the continent at one point. And according to the Navajo legend, they teamed up with a bunch of other tribes and just drove their ass right off the continent, killed all of them that they could, and chased the rest of them back through the Beringia from Alaska back over into Siberia again. And then they left part of their tribe in Alaska to make sure they didn't come back again. And then, by the way, the Navajo are called the Dene, and what's the tribe up in Alaska called? The Dene.
No kidding.
And they did genetic research on them, and guess what? They are the same tribe. So you can believe what the scientists are telling you. They're full of crap. Or you can believe what the Navajo are telling you, because what they're saying actually matches up with the evidence.
Yep, I've noticed that when you go into American Indian, their oral history, there's a lot of stuff that is not censored like our history is.
Yeah, no, they don't censor their history because their history is real. They haven't gotten an agenda. Their agenda is, we want to tell you what happened in the past. You don't want to believe it? Go ahead, be stupid, white man. Here's what happened. Or don't forget, for years and years and years, they wouldn't really tell any of the white men anything about Sasquatch, because as soon as they started saying anything about it, we'd start telling them they were crazy and making stuff up. And it's only very recently that white man has been looking at this going, well, wait, maybe there is something out in the woods. And the natives are like, oh, finally figured it out, huh? You guys are slow on the uptake.
Slow.
Yeah, you guys are dummies. We've known about this for hundreds of years. And we would have told you too, but you're too busy being dummies saying we know everything. There's big monkeys running around in the continent. No, there isn't, you idiots. There's some baboon-like things running around in the continent, but monkeys, no. They're down in South America.
So one last interesting thing about that photo too, well, there's actually still some more, but having that baby dog man in the photo, and you can go on the properties with the photo, and that photo was taken, I think it was April 6th. So if you look
what year was this taken now?
This would have been 2020.
Okay, so very recently.
Yeah. Yeah, any of my evidence started in 2019 till now. So
Okay.
a lot of stuff in a short period of time.
Yeah, I know how that is. I've gone periods of like years where nothing has happened, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, there's tons of stuff, you know.
Yeah, it's nonstop. Yeah, it's crazy. Then when it slows down, you kind of miss it. But yeah. But anyway, so a photo there with the properties and when it was taken gives me some vague insight on birthing cycles with the dogmen. Because I seen that photo was in April. That baby dogman, I don't know how many years or months it would take for, I don't know, the growth cycle from when they're born, you know.
Yeah,
But it was.
know.
And then the other thing is, so I have that photo, and then I have another photo that shows another baby dogman that was caught in June. That one was actually smaller. So from my photos alone, I could just suggest that from sometime early in the spring through summer up to June at least, I know that they still have offspring.
Yeah.
So what's neat is that a lot of photos, if you look at it, they could tell you a lot more information than just what's in the photo, you know? I mean, you can go back to that year and the day that's on that. You could tell what the weather was like, things that were going on, you know?
Yeah.
So you could do a lot of investigating just through your own photos, which is pretty
Any
cool.
interesting astronomical conjunctions on that day or anything? That all that kind of stuff. I know that's one thing that comes up. Other people have been like, "Hey, when you find these structures, do you ever check where the compass reading is?" And like, no. I mean, there's a couple people out there I know that have got theories that they're actually lining them up to like cardinal points and stuff in some way. But
Yeah.
I haven't bothered to document it that much to actually see that. And I know I've had several compasses with me, and they keep breaking all the time. So I'm kind of like gave up on carrying one with me. I'm just going to do everything by dead reckoning because compasses mysteriously keep breaking all the time.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
3 so far.
wow. What, are you rough on them, or is it the magnetic?
Nope. I don't know what's doing it. They just break, quit working, frozen in position.
Yeah, that sounds like something to do with the land there. Hmm.
Well, yeah. Well, you can pretty much guarantee that any place where there's a hot spot, there's something going on there. Huge
Yeah.
quartz deposits, underground rivers, ley lines, portals, could be anything.
Uh,
And that's where you get lots of cryptid reports, and you got any of those things around there. That's what's attracting them. Sometimes it's an energy source. That's what attracting them.
have you ever heard of metal warping sounds in the woods when you're out there?
Absolutely. The drummer from Swamp Ritual that plays the music on my show was about 2 miles up the hill from here in a spot they're not supposed to be after dark, having a little bonfire where they're not supposed to have one. And him and two of his friends heard this sound that sounded like something tearing sheet metal, and then it
Yeah.
morphed into a scream.
Okay. I didn't hear that, but twice I heard deep in the woods, and there ain't no metal or anyone back there. Sounds like a 10 by 10 square foot of aluminum siding dragged through the woods and ripping.
Yeah.
It's real weird. And I
That's what
have,
they couldn't understand what this was too. They thought it was somebody had made a machine shop or something up there because it sounded like metal ripping, but then it morphed into a scream at the end of it. So they were really confused. What the hell was that?
that is confusing. But I have this theory. I mean, you know how when you have lightning, a lightning bolt charges up the air and separates it, and it comes back together real fast and it makes the thunderclap?
Yeah.
When a portal is activated, when it opens or closes, there's going to be an energy transfer there. And I'm wondering if that metal sound is due to a portal opening or closing. Because, like I said, I did a lot of armchair
That
research.
could be. I've actually heard other people report that kind of sound in conjunction with proximity to portals where there's a lot of activity and stuff happening. So that certainly could be what's going on. And then the other thing is if you're near it, you'll get a flash to be a light flash.
Oh, wow.
And the other thing that we've actually figured out, and MCAT and I think it was Dan had the equipment up at Coloma, and they went up to where there's two standing stones. We're pretty sure there's a portal in between them. And he walked in there with his gamma ray detector, and he got 2 gamma ray bursts within 2 minutes of standing there. Like that shouldn't be happening at all, ever, much less twice in 2 minutes.
Wow. Yeah. So that's good because that was something that I came up with and I was thinking about it because I kept hearing people would hear that or metal popping sounds, and all of a sudden they'd have an encounter with a cryptid. So,
Yeah, that could be the sound of the dimensional veil parting or something. We don't know. But again, I've heard this reported before, and that was one of the things that I was suspecting too, that sound might have something to do with portals opening and closing. You'd have to talk to the woo-woo people that know a lot more about that stuff than I do.
well, that brings to the last big aspect of that group photo with the dogman and the Bigfoot in it. Like I told you earlier, when I made a reference with certain trees, because I go back there every single day and I look at everything. I know how all the trees are, what trees are where, bent ones, goofy looking ones, normal ones. And I know that I seen a physical landmark that was made out of growing trees that I could reference to because the next day I wanted to go back and look for tracks or whatever. But when I go back, those trees aren't there. The whole woods is totally different than what's in that photo. And I find it strange that they're all together. It looked like within a 15-foot area as a group, and the mind speak. And then I go over there, they don't move. They got their eyes covered. And then later on, I find out that that section of woods they're in isn't even the woods that are behind my house. So it's like if there's a veil or an alternate reality adjacent to ours, if somehow they're able to open it up and is the other side, the other reality, like similar to our landscape? I've heard sometimes that it is. I heard some people actually went into portals and where they were looked just like where we are now, but there's slight differences. There might be a lake there that wasn't there.
Yeah, I've heard the whole gamut of stories on that one. There was one where a guy walked apparently through a portal because it was fall. There was all the leaves were off the trees, hardwood forest, some snow on the ground, not very much. He walks up to this ridge line, takes 2 more steps, and all of a sudden he's in a jungle.
Oh, wow.
And he was so freaked out he took 2 steps back and then he was back on the ridge line again. Good thing he went backwards.
Yes, he did. Good thing.
He decided to turn around and get the hell out of there. Now, another person that's been up here in my research area with me, they're up in northern Washington, right up by the Canadian border, the Selkirk Range. And they were investigating this island. It's about the size of a football field. And they've been on this island a bunch of times before, and they know the Sasquatch like to leave the kids there. So you can find little Squatchlet tracks. They got on the island, and all of a sudden they couldn't figure out where the hell they were. Nothing looked the same as when they came onto the island at any time in the past. They didn't recognize where they were. And he just sat down and waited, and it took about 45 minutes, and then all of a sudden everything looked normal again. He knew exactly where he was, and he got up and got the hell off the island.
Yeah, I would have done the same thing. It's
Oh, you're
crazy.
talking about an island the size of a football field, and you've been on it before. How the hell can you not know everything on it?
Right.
How can you get that lost in the middle of the island? All of a sudden, you can't see any of the river. You can't see anything that looks like you've seen before. The area you just walked into, all of a sudden looks completely different.
Yep. And, as much as I don't trust in science, I know science has also said that there are for sure portals around the world.
Well, they finally admitted to that. I remember Kat Hansen was incredibly gleeful when she came on my show one of the last time she was on here and said, "Yeah, I've been telling everybody portals existed for years, and NASA finally admitted it. Ha ha! I told you so."
Yeah, Kat, she's cool. I like her a lot. Her and
Love Kat. Hope she's doing okay. I should try and get a hold of her again. The last time I heard, she was up in the mountains because it was midsummer and it was ridiculously hot where she was at. So she went up to camp in the mountains, get away from the heat for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's cool.
So anyway, now beyond the Dogman thing, you got some other pictures that you sent with. What else did you bring along to share with us?
There was a nice photo that I caught by accident. I call it the Cloaking Dogman. And in that photo, you could see the top of a skull and an ear, 2 ears, and then an eye socket, kind of like an eye socket. And then the rest is blurred out. And you can see an outline of a body where there's an arm and the body torso goes down. And it looks like a dog man. And I did an outline that's in red where you can see where the body is. But it was interesting because I was walking to go back to the river. I was up there on vacation, and I went through a big fern area. And up north, some of the ferns get like 3 feet high. So I thought it was cool, and I turned around and I had my cell phone, and I kind of crouched down and I got a photo of the top parts of the fern. And then, just went on my way back to the river and did what I did and went back home. And then I always had that picture. I have a lot of pictures that I save. And after the group photo Dogman incident, we went looking through all the other photos, and then I found that photo that we're talking about now, where you can see the top part of what looks like a dogman's head. And where that dogman is the trail that I just went through, and I went through the ferns, and I went around and took a photo. So that thing was following me, and it must have seen me turn and started to cloak. But I was able to snap off a photo before it fully cloaked. But I never knew it was there at all, ever.
Yeah. Good job. What do you think is more disturbing, actually seeing them and getting a picture, or finding them in the picture afterwards? Because for me, I find that finding them in the pictures or video afterwards is incredibly disturbing.
That you are so correct on, Duke. It is very disturbing because, like I said, that thing was following me down the trail, and I had no idea. And then I have another photo of a Sasquatch that I never knew was even sitting at the end of the driveway watching me, because I just got
God.
the driveway, Now, that photo of that Sasquatch, he's in between two trees that are a V. And from there, he could look straight up the driveway. He could look through all the windows in the house. It's a perfect place to look. And in the photo, he looks like he's a part of the pines,
Blending.
And, yeah, blending good. And he could just stand there, and it's like a stalker staring at you. It's kind of creepy. But and when I looked at the photo, the first thing I noticed was his hands. That's how I found it, because they blend in pretty good. But I found the hands, and they're massive meat hands, fingers like giant sausages. And you could see one's kind of balled up. And then between the trees is his face. And you could see from where the sunlight was coming down when it was sunset, that it was coming across half of his face. You could see a brow ridge and where the eye socket was and everything. And what was neat about that photo was there's a birch tree that's next to him that's busted on the top. The top broke off a long time ago. So that birch tree is still there. So I went down and I made a reference to how tall it was, because I used that tree as a reference.
Right.
That tree is 15 feet tall where the break is, and he's not too far from that mark. He's at least 12 or 13 feet tall.
Oh my God.
And his shoulders, because of those V's of the trees where he's looking through, every day 4 feet plus wide for sure. He was a monster size Sasquatch. And I got that photo the same year that I got that one Bigfoot footprint that I sent to you. That's a 23-inch footprint.
Yeah.
See the mid torso break perfectly on that foot there. Because there was a lot of plant debris, and then that footprint actually was in there's logging equipment that went through there, and it left like a 2-foot rut in the sand and mud. And that Sasquatch was walking through and stepped on the side of the wheel track, so that print was on a 45-degree angle. But you can see the toes where they slid a little bit and curled up at the front, which is near where the tape measure body is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of dead plant material around there. When the Sasquatch stepped down on there, it stuck to the bottom of his foot. But you can see a slight diagonal line across the middle of the foot where the mid-torso break is, where the plant debris didn't stick. And that's a nice indicator for sure that was a Sasquatch print, let alone it being 23 inches long.
God, that's huge. That's freaking huge. I think the biggest one we found here was 23, 24 inches, but that was a mountain giant track, only had 4 toes. The biggest Bigfoot track I found out here has been 21.
Oh, wow. You can see by the tape measure, you can clearly see where the toes end and where the heel begins. I mean, sure, it was on a 45-degree angle, so maybe you could give an inch for a slide or whatever, but that's still big, And then that picture was the same year that I caught the Sasquatch peeking up through from the driveway in the woods at the house. So I think that's his footprint, because he was, like I said, 12.
Yeah, if he's that big, probably that sounds about the right size for his foot. Around 12, 13 feet, yeah, he's going to have a foot that's going to be 20 inches or bigger.
Yeah. And what's interesting was I have a 286 old John Deere snowblower, you know, and it runs like a cat. And I was snow blowing the driveway. It's kind of long and it curves out to the access road. And I think he was there watching me the whole time, probably fascinated with watching the snow flying out of it, or whatever, you know. I have no idea. I'm out there doing my thing, and when I get to the bottom of the driveway and it curves, he would be like about 20 feet away from me, you know.
Wow.
No idea it was there. None.
Yeah. Yeah, very disturbing. I know, like I told you last, well, I think it was yesterday when we were talking about that one big one that was standing behind me on that ridge line. And I'm just doo-doo-doo-doo, filming the valley. Oh, pretty view. Look at the pretty view of the valley. There's something behind me. Just like that. Well, now I look at the video afterwards. Yeah, there's a Sasquatch standing in that tree about 30 feet behind you, and his nose is the size of your head. He's about 12 feet tall. Oh my God.
That's huge. Yeah,
Freaky.
that's
Yeah, broad daylight too, middle of the friggin' day.
yeah, that's very intimidating, you know. So you
Yeah. Yeah, as if that's not spooky enough, then Christy looks at it and goes, "Oh, there's three in this tree right next to him. Here's the eyes. 1, 2, 3." And then Robin goes, "There's one down slope from him too. See that one? You can see him from the waist up." And I'm like, "Quit pointing out Bigfoot in my video." Giving me PTSD again.
well, I have to give you credit, dude. You keep going back out, so that's a good thing, you know.
Well, they
At least
keep
you're
not killing me, so at the point where they kill me, I won't be going out anymore. But until then, I'm going to keep trying. They've never been aggressive, so what do I have to be scared of? Yeah, they're huge, they're scary looking, but they've never been aggressive. So until they actually act aggressive, like you're being a pain in the ass, go away, why not go back?
right, right. Yeah, and it's to me it is thrilling. I mean, if you got that kind of safe zone, my curiosity would burn so much. I need to get back out there and find out as much as I can, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And with me, it's not so much the curiosity thing anymore. It really was at the beginning. But the more I know about them and the more I interact with them, especially the two really nice groups that I've got around here to interact with, it's more like they're just becoming friends and I miss them. I want to go camping to go visit my friends. It's not like, ooh, spooky, let's go Bigfoot camping. It's like, now my friends want me to go camping. Grab some peanut butter, let's go. Leave them some goodies for when we leave. We'll leave them some goodies. So then the next time we show up, they're like, "Hey, that's our friends that bring us goodies. What are they doing this time? Let's follow them around and screw up so they can get us on camera."
You got that relationship for sure, you know.
Well, again, as long as it's non-hostile interaction, you never can be like, completely sure what their intentions are or anything. But if you've been around the same group over and over and over and over, and they never act aggressive to you, and they come into camp and they play pranks and all this other stuff, why should I be afraid of them? They've never given me a reason to be afraid of them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, that's one thing I want to address the chat very well too. All the people watching, you know, you're interested, you never done stuff like this. I would definitely say not all of them are going to be nice, so you definitely
No.
have to use
Again, keep in mind they're all individuals, and there are some groups that are just flat out bad and dangerous and aggressive. Like if you're up in the Yukon, don't go do Bigfoot research. I found out that just about all of them don't like humans and will eat you. Don't go do Bigfoot research in the Yukon.
Yeah, in Alaska too, I heard it's pretty
Now,
bad.
Alaska, there are a lot more aggressive ones, and there are neutral ones. I don't know what the deal is in the lower 48. It's totally case by case.
Yeah,
Most of them don't want anything to do with you. Go away. And there's a few of them that are curious, and if they like you, they'll let you hang around and they'll do some limited interaction with you. But that's about the best you can expect. You're not going to be coming into camp, sitting down, having, coffee and donuts with you or something.
yeah. And that's the most important thing you said there, because some of these people who are getting into this, they'll go out and do tree knocks, do calls, and they have no idea what they're saying or you know what they're calling out. They're just gonna if you're gonna go out there and try to find them, you know, hunting through the woods and everything, you're never gonna find them.
No,
And
you
I
can't
found
find
that.
them. You absolutely cannot find them. That's what I learned when I was a little kid at the Shaolin Temple of Sasquatching. Master Po came up to me while I was lighting candles one day, and he said, "Grasshopper, you cannot find Sasquatch. You must make Sasquatch find you."
That's it. That's it. And the best way to do that is to have fun at a bonfire. You know.
Exactly. Be friendly, have good intentions. I'm out here because I love this forest. It's so beautiful. I'm so lucky that I even get to camp out here. I feel so blessed that I get away from the stinking city for a couple days, be out in the woods with nature and all the wonderful animals. And, you have that kind of attitude and you have, good hearted and everything. They pick up on that. They're watching you constantly, and they can read your surface intentions too. So, after a while, they've got it figured out whether they think they can trust you at all and want to have anything to do with you. And even if they do trust you, their trust for humans is very limited. We don't have a good track record.
True. And you're not going to pull the wool over their eyes. They're going to know about your intent.
Nope. And don't waste your time trying to trick them, because if you want to make sure that you never get to see one, try and trick them.
Yeah, yeah.
There's very few of them that'll put up with that very much. I'm frequently surprised that William Lunsford and Stephen Hill has as much luck as they do with their game cam traps. And what I've figured out is, I think anyway, is that they just think it's a game. They know
Yeah,
they're going to get a Snickers bar. Can I get the Snickers bar without getting caught on camera? It's a game to them at this point. And some of them don't like it. They just take the game cam off the tree and eat it or throw it 50 yards.
yeah. I gave up on the game show cam. Mine, I'll format the card and get everything set. I see it come on. It videotapes me. I go back a couple of weeks later. SD card's empty. It's not even formatted. It's zapped.
You know,
There's like nothing there. That happens so much. It's just like, and I have several game cams, and that happens to all of them. So it's not just a malfunction in a game trail cam.
no, I was just watching a compilation of interesting game cam pics, and this isn't a Bigfoot or paranormal channel. They just show somebody got interesting game cam pic, and they do compilations of them. And one of them, it's snow, it's winter, it's night. There's a track line going away from the camera through the snow. Tightrope walk, not side by side footsteps, bipedal through the heavy snow. Whatever it was that just made those tracks didn't set off the camera at all. What set off the camera is an orb that's right next to it on the right hand side of the frame.
No kidding. What?
Yeah. So again, the guy that does this he's up in British Columbia somewhere, and he just sets up game cams and he goes, films the drive going to get it, puts in all the pictures that were on it, and then films the drive coming back from it. That's his video format. And it's all nature pictures, animals. You got a lynx in this one, which is really cool. And then here's this other picture, and he's just sitting there looking at it going, I don't know, the Sasquatch, or there's an orb right there. Whatever, on to the next picture.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
And that was fun for me, because obviously the guy has a pretty good idea of what it is that his game cam got a picture of, but that isn't his show. So he's like, I don't know what set the camera off. Is there a Sasquatch here? There's some tracks. There's an orb on the right hand side. Okay, next picture.
That's hilarious.
And that's been coming up quite a bit. I check those channels every so often. They'll be like, unusual thing caught on game cam, and you go check it out to see what it is. And there's some of these guys that are starting to catch cryptids on game cams too, just randomly.
Yeah, you do get lucky once in a while. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I think they slip up or they don't care. I don't know.
Yeah, well, one or the other, and sometimes it could be that the conditions are such, the camera's pointed this way, the infrared beam's going this way, and they're coming from behind it. They don't
Right.
see the beam until they've already gone around the tree, triggered the camera. And like Kelly Shaw has pointed out, Rocky Mountain Sasquatch, make sure you subscribe, that the shutter speed on these things isn't that fast. And he himself can walk in front of one and trigger it and be off frame by the time it goes off.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they're observing that too.
Yeah. 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 If you're close to it and you go by really fast. But the further away you are, it's going to be hard, even with a slow trigger.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was the cool thing about the one picture that I was just referencing, because trackway going past the camera off into the distance
Ah,
somehow didn't trigger it, but the orb right next to it did.
that's an awesome photo there.
Yeah, I think he was pretty surprised too. He's like, "Yeah, okay, I don't know what to make of this. On to the next picture." Like, I'm going to show you this. I have no idea what did this. You guys figure it out.
Yeah, I'm sure the comments blew up on that one.
Yeah, well, that's always, and I really appreciate people that'll do that. They're not going to just hide the picture because they don't know what it is. Or like, weird picture. You guys tell me what it is. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I have to check out that channel.
Yeah, well, I'll send you the link. Just remind me after we get done with the show, because I just
Okay.
posted that up into my group a few days ago. I've been coming across some of these where people are starting to have the courage to, like, by the way, I got this weird picture in my game cam. I don't know what the hell this thing is.
Good. Yeah.
It's good to see. It's way past time where people should be doing that. I mean, just, you don't have to interpret the evidence. All you have to do is just put it out there. I don't know what this is. Somebody else tell me if you know what this is. I don't know. I got a picture of it.
Yeah, at least they're doing that, and then someone will clue them in what it is, you know.
Yeah, 'cause it's entirely possible that it might be something just completely mundane, and they're just not enough of an expert on the wilderness and the local animals that they don't realize what it is they got a picture of. But unless you put it out, you're never going to find out, because you yourself don't know. You're admitting that. I don't know what this is. I got a picture of it. It's like if people give me shit, you're crazy. You think cryptids are real. No, I don't. My camera's crazy. It keeps getting them on video.
Yeah, I got a crazy camera.
My camera's insane. It keeps getting videos of cryptids. Might have something to do with where I go with it when I turn it on. But anyway, so it seemed to me like you had a couple more interesting pictures there. We got to cover those. We're like way, way over time right now.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, so I remember having a picture. There's some pictures that I did of a bird feeder incident. We had a bird feeder up in the front of the house, and one morning we woke up and we found it was on the ground, and all the bird feed's gone. And the first thing you think of is, oh, maybe a bear came in at night, and ate the food. But I know when a bear takes a bird feeder down, it'll take it off in the woods and destroy it and get all the bird seed out and maybe eat it that way.
Yeah.
That'd be more typical. And on top of that, where the bird feeder was, it was right above where my girlfriend had a really nice floral garden with flowers and things underneath. And there was nothing, no footprints, nothing smashing any of the plants or flowers down, which we thought was really odd. And that's where we found the bird feeder. The bird feeder has a metal disc on the bottom where the holes are, where the bird seeds come out and the birds can land on and eat them. So what it looks like was something took their finger and grabbed the metal on the bottom and just pulled it down so that the hole got real big, and they just poured all the seed in their mouth.
Well, that kind of eliminates a whole lot of possible animals that could have done that one.
It sure does. And not only that, it was on a wrought iron metal ring, and it pulled the metal ring down somewhat, bent it, and then it broke a screw off on the back that mounted it to the house.
Wow.
Right next to the bird feeder, there's a really huge handprint, and it doesn't look like what a paw from a bear would be like, because it's usually shorter and wider.
Right.
You could
Short, stubby fingers and claws.
Yep, you could actually see fingers up at the top of it. So
Wow.
it came around the corner of the house and didn't step in the flower bed, and put one hand on the front of the house. And then I got another picture where there's three fingers where it was grabbing the edge of the house on the corner. And that happened in 2019. And to this day, I still got those fingerprints. The snow, rain, nothing wore it off. It's still there.
Wow. Yeah, the greasy fingerprint thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with them. They just lather themselves with Vaseline, intensive care or something. But They got greasy skin. They leave fingerprints all over the place.
Yeah, I heard it's hard to get off, like on your windows, you know.
Yep.
Don't get it off that good.
Yep. Yeah, the ones that they left on Christie's car when we were over in Nebraska, it was easy to lift them off because they were so greasy. And as soon as they went for a drive with it and all of the dust was blown onto the greasy fingerprints, they were super obvious. And you didn't even have to dust them. All you had to do was just take a piece of tape and go pull it
Yeah,
back off again.
and it's got all the little ridges and everything in it, you know.
Yep. Yep. Got all that on display over at the Nebraska Bigfoot Museum. If you guys are near there and want to stop by and check it out, they have the actual fingerprints we pull off the car right there at the museum on display.
Oh, that would be neat to see.
It was surprising to us. We weren't expecting to have Bigfoot encounters at a Bigfoot museum.
Exactly. So much evidence, you know. It's just hard for me to believe that some people still don't believe in them, you know.
Well, there's, the disconnect, and of course, people are trained from the time they're little to think all this stuff is imaginary, and
Yeah.
only science is real. Nothing from the past that our ancestors told us was real is real. Only science. Yeah, right. I had news for you, kids. Monsters are real.
Yeah, they are. Definitely are. More than you can imagine, too. I'm sure there's things out there that no one has any clues about, you know.
Yeah. According to Robin, I got one of them on video, and she's not even sure what the hell it is. That's why she's laying down resting right now, because she was just looking at a piece of video I filmed that freaked her out pretty bad. Apparently, there's everything in the kitchen sink, including a portal, is in that video. The only thing I didn't get, according to her, was a lizard man, which, yay, I don't need any lizard man in my area, too, yet. Everything else in the universe appears to be there.
So are you gonna be posting that video up at?
Oh, yeah, I'm just waiting for everybody to get done taking a look at it and breaking it down. Blaine Tyler already found one that Robin missed right as I'm walking across the road. I'm going down the embankment, filming across the road. There's one standing between two trees right on the opposite side of the road watching me.
Wow. Holy cow. Yeah, it's a hot area.
Yeah, it's almost like too hot area. Yeah, I don't mind the activity and everything. As long as they're all friendly, it's good. That's okay. Can you guys just like not clump up so much and not have like 30 cryptids visiting me all?
Yeah.
It's a little bit disturbing. It's extremely disturbing. So, what did you have other pictures that we needed to go over yet? Because we're at almost 2 hours now. We got to get this done.
Yeah, we got, I think, a couple more pictures of structures, and that's it. And I've seen a lot of impressive structures through your videos and stuff. Mine are like tiny Legos compared to yours, you know.
It doesn't have anything to do with the size of them. What it has to do with is that they're all over the world and they're uniform. There's certain types that they make, and you can find examples everywhere from where I'm at right here over to Siberia. I've got asterisk structures that I took pictures of here, and then you compare them to, oh, look at this other asterisk structure. And I could literally lie to somebody and say, this is from my area, and they would believe it. That picture was taken in Siberia by Dr. Igor Burtsev.
Okay, I heard of him, yeah.
Yeah, all across the world. Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah, he's only the #1 Bigfoot researcher on the planet. I'm glad you've heard of him. Been out in the field for 40 friggin' years or longer than that, actually. Yeah, so Robin hangs around with him a lot. He was the one that drug Robin over to Siberia to do a Bigfoot conference over there, actually.
Yeah. So one of the photos is a small tree, and if you can see in the photo, the tree is split down the middle, and there's a bunch of branches stuffed in there, and it looks like an asterisk.
But what the hell? Yeah, that's not natural. Somebody made that.
Well, who could split that wood like that? That's just, I mean, it'd have to be a Sasquatch, and they must have twisted it or something to make it break down the center. But they piled a bunch of sticks and weird stuff, and I was wondering if you ever seen that kind of a sign before.
I haven't seen them do that out here. I'm sure in other parts of the country people have. And one of the things that we find is not only the snaps that are between 6 and 9 feet up, where they've taken a tree that's like maybe that big around and just snap it off. Twist snaps, where
Right.
while they're snapping the tree, they're twisting it at the same time. That cannot happen naturally.
That cannot happen. You're right. Because there's a difference between a snap and a break.
Yep. Yeah, and it breaks off completely, questionable. If it's snapped and it's still hanging there, it's still attached, questionable. If it's snapped and twisted, that takes a hand. That doesn't happen naturally.
Yeah.
And what's strong enough to grab this thing that's 4, 5, 6 inches around and go and snap and twist it?
Oh yeah, that's some strength there. So
I told Mike when we were canvassing our area that we were going to just run around and just look for snaps. And I predicted that every snap that we would find would be between 6 and 9 feet up. So he actually took his tape measure with, and he measured every single one that we found all day long. And guess what? They're all between 6 and 9 feet.
Cool. That's awesome.
Because they're just walking along going like this, whatever's at shoulder level, or a little bit lower, So 6 and 9 feet. That's where the average size is going to put them all.
Now, do you think there's a reason they do that, Duke? Is that a signpost of some sort?
Yeah, those are markers for sure. And the other thing we've been able to determine is if they got a snap, usually it's a trail marker. The end that's laying down is pointing towards something, or the opposite direction is pointing something. If it's a twist snap, sometimes that means there's a secret trail there. And the indication of which direction they twisted it will tell you which direction you should go check and see if there's another secret trail.
Wow. That's
So
good.
you see so much of this stuff, you start looking for patterns on it, and then you start going, oh, wait, there is a pattern here. When they got these twisty ones like this, it twisted to the right, look to the right.
Wow. I'll have to keep that in mind because I have seen some breaks like that were twisted.
Yep. Bigfoot Outlaws brought this up years ago. Bear and Coonbo had noticed this, where they would twist them. And what they were thinking is that it was which hand they were grabbing it with. If they grabbed it with their right hand, they'd snap it to the right. If they grabbed it with their left hand, they'd snap to the left. And I started looking at these ones that were twisted and going, well, whatever hand they're using for it, this one's twisted to the right. There's shit right over there to the right. There's another huge structure right over there out of eyesight. So maybe this is actually a secret trail marker. Something, we got something over here. It's over to the right.
Huh. I'll have to keep that in mind for sure.
Now, so, yeah, that's a way to mark. Actually, if you think about it, that's a really brilliant way to mark a cross in a trail. The snap tree indicates that there's a trail going this way, and the twist indicates there's another one over here, and you marked all that with one thing.
Wow, multi-purpose signpost. That's good.
Yeah, well, they're freaking super smart. We're dumb. Yeah. We're the ones that are trying to figure out what all this stuff means and what they're doing.
That's true. And they don't have any technology. They just use what's around them,
Yeah, and what's around them is their technology. There's been people now that have been paying attention to some of these bigger structures and seeing if they're energy collectors. And you take an EM meter and hold it up the top of some of these teepee structures, and it'll fire off. What's that all about?
I need to get one of those meters.
Yep. I need to get one too, and I need to get better audio recorder because we get plenty of audio up there where I'm at, and I just don't bother to record it. So it'd be fun to get, some of it just go. There's a typical example from one trip. You got 14 wood knocks, 2 rock clacks, 3 whoops, and like whatever else. It'd be typical for being out there for 2 or 3 days. So yeah, interesting. So that was it. The tree structures and stuff. We got everything covered now.
Yeah, we're pretty good.
Okay, I just want to make sure we didn't leave anything out because that happens sometimes. People send a pile of stuff and they start talking there. Oh yeah, there was those pictures of that Bigfoot under the tree that I forgot to mention. Or the first time I had brown dwarf on and the whole signal started going to hell and we couldn't finish the video right as we were getting to the part where you had the cool Bigfoot pictures to show. So in case you guys are wondering why I had him on again so soon, because he had those cool Bigfoot pictures to show and he had lots of other stuff that he's also, documented that hadn't been shown on the show yet. So I'm just trying to be thorough. But anyway, I really appreciate you coming on the show. How do people find you?
Right now, I'm considering starting up a YouTube channel, but for now, you can go find me on Facebook. I have a group called Primal Cry in the Dark Woods, and
Ooh, play on words.
yeah, exactly. It's it's an idea that me and Primal Cry came up with, and we're running that together. So we're putting. She has a lot of evidence. She has a lot of Dogman photos and stuff, and I got her to just now start getting those out there. So you'll see some pretty cool stuff in the near future there as well. But
Right
she
on.
a lot of sightings and encounters while she's there. I'm at work.
All right, well, that's an easy name to remember. Everybody get over there and go join the group. I should also remind you all that I have a group on Facebook still, even though I haven't been on there in years. My mods run it for me, and some of the best Bigfoot researchers around post stuff there. If you've got a incident that you want to talk about, the mods over there can easily handle it. Robin McCrae is one of them. And if you've got pictures or video you want to post, we encourage you bring it on over to the group and post it on up. Always interested in having that. You're not going to have to deal with trolls or anything. We kill all of them right away and then burn them so they can't regenerate. So there aren't any trolls on the group. You got 5,000 people on there. Montana Bigfoot Project. If you haven't already been over there and joined the group, go check it out. Join the group. We'd be happy to have you there, looking for people that are serious about the subject. And you know, a lot of people in that group and that are followers on my show fall into the category of, well, we're actually Bigfoot researchers. However, that ended up happening. They're at this point going, yeah, I know they're real. I've already seen one. You know, so it happened. We're like, I got pictures, whatever. Tell me, give me more information on these weird things that are out there. That's what we're trying to do. Try and get everybody that's out there gathering the information to share the information, and you start seeing all these patterns, and then you can connect the dots, and you get a much better picture of what it is that you're trying to look at. So this is what's called actual science, kids. Not running an agenda. We go everywhere, wherever the evidence is pointing, that's where we're going.
Yeah, that's nice to have.
And that's real science, you know, and a lot BFRO, they're running an agenda. There's no woo. You
No,
send them a report, they'll change it, and they'll take the woo out of it. Well, you know, like Dave Scott would say, after you alter the report, whether it's a Bigfoot report or a UFO report, it's worth jack shit because you just changed it.
yep, it's controlled.
Yeah. Agenda driven altering evidence. Don't let people see the whole picture and what's actually on there. Bigfoot in Germany, just to close out with this one, has been on the show many times. He had a report of his first sighting, the Sierra Nevadas, that he submitted to the BFRO. It was originally 3 pages because these special forces, they do excruciatingly detailed breakdowns of what happened while they were in the field. So if you go look at that report now, it's been altered several times. Now, I think he said it's down to like 2 paragraphs that basically don't make any sense.
Holy cow! Yeah, that's
Yeah,
typical.
so if you get a Bigfoot report, don't waste your time reporting it to the BFRO. If there's any paranormal elements in it, they'll cut it out.
That's right.
And there's another alternate for that platform called squatchable.com, who have an actually even bigger database and don't alter the reports. And if you want to find something, it's not only listed by state, but by county in the state. So you can go right on squatchable.com, search for your state and county, and see if there's been any reports where you live. Okay, there's your alternative. Screw the barfro. Sorry to any of you guys that are still out there being good natured and trying to help and work with them and everything. They're assholes. They're going to stab you in the back. And I've got a lot of former BFR researchers that'll tell you that because they've been there.
Yep, I've heard that a lot too.
Yep. And as soon as you leave the BFRO, all of a sudden they're all over your research area. Yeah. They come intrude on your territory as soon as you're not part of the group anymore. Or your area is too active and all of a sudden black helicopters start showing up and then there's no Bigfoot there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be careful about that kind of information.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, with that, thank you so much for being on the show. Looking forward to having you on again here in the future. Make sure to come back and keep us updated on what you're finding as you're finding it. And become a repeat offender on World Bigfoot Central by coming back and showing more evidence again.
I like being a repeat offender. That's cool.
There you go. Right on. Everybody should be a repeat offender. Get out there, boots on the ground, butt in the field. That's where the evidence comes from. Archive work is all great, but somebody had to actually report that at some point, which meant they were boots on the ground, butt in the field. That's how they got to report. So all you guys are doing is retreading old stuff that's already been dug up, which is great. There's some great archivists out there right now that are really doing phenomenal work. Hammerson Peters up in British Columbia, writing books and doing videos on all the local legends and stuff that's there with cryptids. If you're not already subbed to his channel, go sub it. He's amazing. 100%. Double thumbs up from Duke. And he even did a video recently on the Fraser Valley and talked about mountain giants. So I gave him a link to the show on mountain giants I did for Sasquatch Chronicles, which now is over 500,000 views. Just so he could get caught up and get up to date, you know, and realize he's not the only person that's been talking about this, and I started way before him. But anyway, 502,000 views, folks. If you haven't seen it yet, you're like the only people on Earth interested in Bigfoot who haven't. Go check it out. A little plug for Wes there, Sasquatch Chronicles. Wes does a good job. He gets the people that actually have the encounters to come on the show and tell them. So he's not some boring, regurgitated, terrible narrator that's just sitting there in the woods or behind a desk reading a story. Who cares? If you want to hear the story, you can hear it right from the witness's mouth. Sasquatch Chronicles. If you want to see the evidence, he ain't going to help you at all. You got to come to my show for that.
That's right.
Because World Bigfoot Radio, World Bigfoot Central, Conspiracy Corner, Duke Chat, all the family of shows that are available on my channel all have one thing in common. We show the evidence.
Yep. Evidence.
So with that, everybody, thanks again for being on the show. Dark W, we'll have you back again. And everybody else, you know the drill. Make sure that you follow it explicitly so bad things do not happen.
You're kind to everyone. Safety first, last, and always. Pay it forward. Don't be mean to people if you don't have to be. Don't flip off the mountain giant. Don't poke Dogman with a stick. Don't punt the puck, would you? And for God's sake, whatever you do not hug the Wookiee.